There is a BMW dealer in South Carolina right now sitting on 11 leftover X5s, and he has been told by corporate not to discount them past a certain number, because doing so on paper would tank the resale value of every X5 already sold this year. That is not a rumor. That is how outgoing generation pricing actually works behind the scenes. And 2 days ago, on June 30th, BMW pulled the wrap off the car that just made every one of those 11 SUVs a different vehicle overnight. Not a worse vehicle, a different category of purchase entirely. If you are anywhere near a BMW showroom in the next few months with an X5 on your mind, I need 20 minutes of your attention, because what I am about to walk you through will either save you real money or cost you real money, depending on whether you act on it. Let's get into why. Here's where we are. The X5 you can walk onto a lot and drive home today, the G05 generation, launched back in 2019. 7 years old as a design, still an excellent SUV, genuinely. BMW never let it get stale. The M60i variant makes 523 horsepower. The plug-in xDrive 50e will run you 38 miles on electricity alone, and Edmunds still rates the whole lineup a solid 7.5 out of 10. This is not a car that fell apart with age. It is a car that got quietly, completely replaced. Because 2 days ago, BMW revealed the G65. And I want to be precise about what that word revealed means here, because it matters for your wallet. This is not a refresh. It is not a new grille and a different infotainment screen bolted onto the same bones. Dealers who saw it early, before the public reveal, were reportedly stunned enough that one owner, a man who had worked for BMW, owned 7 of them personally, spent 12 years with the brand, came away from seeing it in person and called it, in his words, insane. That is not typical dealer speak. That is someone whose job is to sell the outgoing car, reacting like the outgoing car just became a different tier of product. So here's the setup you're actually in, if you're cross-shopping right now. On one side of the lot, a proven 7-year-old design nearing the absolute end of its production run. On the other side, arriving within months, a ground-up reinvention that BMW itself is calling the broadest powertrain lineup it has ever offered on a single model. And the salesperson standing between you and both of those vehicles has every financial incentive to make sure you buy the one sitting on his lot tonight, not the one you'll be able to order in a few months. That tension, that's what this whole video is about. And the fact most buyers never hear the other side of it is the reason so many of them overpay for a car that's about to become a previous generation. Let's talk about exactly what's coming, because the details explain why this isn't hype. The new X5 is codenamed G65, and it fully adopts BMW's Neue Klasse design language, the same styling direction that debuted on the iX3, reworked for a vehicle nearly twice the size. It gets a double X motif built directly into the headlights, one you can actually toggle on or off. It gets a completely overhauled dashboard that BMW says shares nothing with the outgoing model. And here's the detail that tells you how seriously BMW is treating this launch. For the first time in the X5's 27-year history, the signature split tailgate is gone, replaced by a single-piece unit. That tailgate was there since 1999. BMW killed a defining feature of its own flagship SUV to move the design forward. That is not a company playing it safe with a mid-cycle update. But the redesign isn't even the most important part. The most important part is underneath. Now stay with me here, because this next detail is the one most car channels are going to skip entirely, and it's the one that actually determines whether you save or lose money. The new X5 will be the first production BMW ever offered with 5 separate powertrain types: gasoline, diesel, plug-in hybrid, full battery electric, and eventually hydrogen fuel cell. Think about what that means from a pure business standpoint. BMW is not betting the X5 on one future. It's hedging every direction the market could move, which tells you this is designed to be the volume-selling backbone of the brand for the next decade. The same way the outgoing G05 has sold over 3 million units globally since the nameplate began. When a manufacturer builds that much optionality into one model, they are not planning to revise it again in 18 months. They are planning to run it, largely unchanged in its fundamentals, for years. Which means the car you'd be buying new off the lot today is not just old, it's about to be frozen in time. Here's a number that should genuinely bother you if you're about to sign paperwork on a current X5 this month. The battery-electric iX5 variant of the new generation is expected to weigh in around 6,200 pounds, making it, by a wide margin, the heaviest production vehicle BMW has ever built. And it's projected to deliver something close to 435 miles of range on a full charge. Sit with that for a second. A vehicle that heavy, delivering range numbers that would have sounded like science fiction on an electric SUV even 3 years ago. That's not incremental improvement. That's BMW deciding the X5 needed to leapfrog, not evolve. I want to tell you about a conversation I had with a service advisor at a BMW store a few weeks back, before any of this was public. I was in for an unrelated recall notice, and he mentioned, almost offhand, that the dealership had already had its look and learn session on the next X5, the private preview dealers get before a public reveal. I asked him, half joking, if it was worth waiting for. He didn't joke back, he said, and I'm paraphrasing closely, that if he were buying for himself and didn't need a vehicle in the next 6 months, he wouldn't touch a new G05 X5 right now at full price. That's a person whose paycheck depends on moving X5s off that same lot, telling me not to buy one at sticker. When the person selling you the outgoing car is quietly steering you toward patience, that's worth more than any spec sheet. Now let's get into the part where I have to be honest with you, because this video isn't here to just tell you, wait, and leave it at that. There's real financial mechanics behind timing a purchase like this, and most of what you'll hear online oversimplifies it in one direction or the other. Here's the uncomfortable truth about buying at the very end of a model cycle. Historically, outgoing luxury SUVs lose value fast the moment a redesign goes public, sometimes losing an additional 5 to 8% of resale value within the first year, specifically because the new generation exists and buyers know it. That's on top of normal depreciation. A current X5 that might otherwise hold 60% of its value after 3 years could easily land closer to 50%. Purely because it's now visibly, unmistakably last generation, the second the G65 hits showrooms. If you're financing a 6-figure vehicle, that gap is not a rounding error. On a $90,000 M60i, an extra 8 points of depreciation is over $7,000 gone, on top of what you were already going to lose. But, and this is the part that gets buried, that same dynamic is exactly why waiting isn't automatically the right call for everyone either. Manufacturers know this pattern too, which means the final production months of an outgoing generation are historically when dealer incentives, loyalty cash, and negotiating room hit their peak. If you can find a current X5 sitting on a lot with genuine year-end or end-of-cycle incentives stacked on top of it, and you plan to trade or sell before that resale cliff really bites, inside 18 to 24 months, you can sometimes come out ahead buying the old car at a real discount rather than paying a likely higher sticker price plus a market adjustment markup on a brand new, high-demand redesign in its first year. The people who lose in this situation aren't the ones who buy old or the ones who wait. They're the ones who pay full price for the outgoing car with no discount, right as the new one becomes public knowledge. That's the worst seat at the table, and it's exactly where most walk-in buyers end up sitting, because nobody at the dealership is going to volunteer that information to you. If this kind of breakdown is useful, separating the marketing from the actual money, go ahead and hit subscribe now, because I'm going to cover exactly what the new X5's US pricing and order windows look like the moment BMW confirms them, and that's going to matter a lot more than anything I can tell you today. Let's talk timeline, because this is where you actually plan around a purchase, instead of just reacting to headlines. Production on the G65 begins in August of this year. In European markets, the gasoline and diesel versions go on sale first, in late November, with the plug-in hybrid and the fully electric iX5 following in March of 2027. The hydrogen fuel cell version isn't expected until 2028. US timing typically trails European rollout by a few months on a car like this. And BMW builds the X5 domestically at its Spartanburg, South Carolina plant, the same facility handling the X3 through X7. So American buyers won't be waiting on overseas shipping the way they would with a European-built model. Realistically, that puts US showroom availability of the earliest gas and diesel trims somewhere in late 2026 to early 2027, with the electric and plug-in versions arriving through the following spring. Here's the thing that should reframe how you're thinking about waiting as a concept. You are not looking at years of limbo here. You are looking at a matter of months between right now and the point where you can walk into a Spartanburg-built G65 and order exactly the powertrain you want, with a design that will still look modern a decade from now, instead of one already visibly aging the moment the new one hits the internet. Now, I'm not going to sit here and tell you every single buyer should wait, because that's not honest. And treating every purchase decision identically is how car channels lose credibility with an audience that actually thinks these things through. If your current vehicle is failing you right now, mechanically unreliable, unsafe, costing you real money every month it stays on the road, the calculus changes completely. Nobody should white-knuckle a dying car for 6 months, chasing a marginally better resale position on the next purchase. If that's you, go negotiate hard on a current G05. Use the leverage of an imminent redesign to push for real incentives, because dealers absolutely know their negotiating position just got weaker. And use it. That leverage is real, and it's available to you starting today, whether or not you ultimately buy. But if you're in a position where your current vehicle is fine, where this is a want and not a need, where you're cross-shopping out of genuine excitement rather than necessity, this is exactly the scenario where patience has a dollar value attached to it. You'd be trading a few months of driving your current car a little longer against buying into a platform that BMW has explicitly built to be its 5 powertrain flagship for the next several years, arriving with a design language so different that dealers who've already seen it are struggling to talk about the old one with a straight face. Here's the verdict, stated plainly. If you need a mid-size luxury SUV in your driveway in the next 30 days, buy the G05. But do it knowing the redesign is public now. Use that as direct leverage in negotiation, and do not pay anywhere close to sticker. If you have any flexibility at all in your timeline, wait. Not because the old X5 is a bad vehicle, it genuinely isn't, but because you'd be buying the final chapter of a 7-year story right as BMW opens a new one, and the resale math on that timing rarely favors the buyer. Watch for US pricing and order bank announcements over the next few months. That's the moment this decision actually becomes real. And that's the moment I'll have the follow-up video ready for you. The best time to buy any car is right before the manufacturer tells you why it's about to be obsolete. BMW just told you. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next.